Okay, there we go. Now it's back to normal somewhat here. Okay, so here we go, guys. Um, it was 1994, late October. It was around the Roman, Latin, Italian holiday of mine, Halloween. Okay, so all of it. Halloween, Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Valentine's Day, Easter, all of it is out of Rome, is Latin, period. All of it. Christmas, New Year's Eve, New Year's Day, Easter. We founded Christianity and Catholicism. We were behind the First Republic. We are behind the founding foundation and formation of the West and all of its institutions and foundations and establishments, all of its fields and studies and disciplines, all of its arts and sciences, all of its letters of the Roman alphabetical order from Latin, from A to Z, everything. Okay? All right. And none of it in any shape or form has anything to do with the indigenous, tribal, Germanic tribes of the North Atlantic, of the land of the ice and snow, of the Arctic Peninsula and the Arctic region that we enslaved and conquered and oppressed for over 1,000+ years till their tribe, the Visigoths, sacked our Emperor Hadrian's Wall 1,500 years ago, if I'm correct. And that's it. It's just that simple. Now, let's get to this. So, they are tribal and they are indigenous. The Frank, the Norman, the Hun, the Celtic, the Viking, doesn't matter. The Visigoth, tribal, indigenous of the Arctic Peninsula, the Arctic region, the North Atlantic, of the land of the ice and snow. Now, and we're the slaves of the Latin Roman pagan empire for over 1,000+ years. Okay, now, so it's late October 1994, and I was living with my girlfriend at the time in a group house in DuPont Circle, Northwest Estrada, DC, right on Church Street, right off of 17th and Church Street, Northwest DC, by the park and across from this church that had actually been burnt down, I believe years and years ago. So we lived right across from there. And I remember this is back then now. This is 1994. I remember the room was rented to us in the house by I believe, Jewish gay man who was a member of the Reverend Jesse Jackson Jr.'s Rainbow Coalition. Okay. So I was living with Stephanie in this group house across from the church on 17th and off of 17th and Church Street, Northwest DuPont Circle, DC. And, again, I'm a heck of a lot younger. This is 30 years ago, man. This is 3 decades ago. So I had heard that the Rolling Stones would annually go to the San Francisco area. That doesn't mean it's true. I heard the Rolling Stones would go to the I believe San Francisco, California area every so often for the annual Halloween masquerade ball in San Francisco. So I contacted my former GI buddy who lived in San Jose, California, Cisco. And I said to Cisco, look, man, I want to come out to San Francisco, on my own. And I was wondering if I could stay with you and your wife and your family in San Jose. He said, you got it, bro. I said, okay, cool. So then I walked my ex-girlfriend to the DuPont Circle Metro Station because she worked in downtown Federal, DC by the Superior Courthouse building. said bye to Stephanie, and I turned around and I went back to our group house. And this person came over and bought my stereo system that was a combined overall total of $3,000 that I all picked up in my central west fatherland of Europe, motherland of Europa. I don't go by countries and nationalities and their culture. I don't. Okay. So I operate by race, ancestry, blood, face, features, anything that's reflected to me in the mirror. Like I'm looking at this personal computer screen now while I'm talking to you. I go by what's real, and I don't. And I'm not guided by countries that have been around for 25 to 50 to 100 to 200 years only. I'm into the entire totality of history. Okay. So I got all of the components to my stereo system in what's now called Mannheim, Germany, the country, the city, when I was in the army. And I spent $3,000 on it. Incredible. Most powerful stereo system I've ever heard in my life. But I sold it for $1,500. Well, I think it was 1,000 actually. Pretty sure it was 1,000. I think it may have been 1,500. And I went to the airport and I flew to San Francisco. Or I forget, did I fly straight to San Jose? But I got picked up by Cisco. His last name is Cisneros. And I stayed with Cisco and his wife in San Jose. And I caught the BART train into San Francisco. Okay. So I was there for about a month. I ended up organically, without knowing anyone in San Francisco, I ended up in the Napa Valley and its vineyards. I ended up on the campus of Berkeley. I ended up inside of Palo Alto and the campus of the University of Stanford. And I went to Haight Ashbury. Haight Ashbury. The infamous, famous Haight Ashbury. So we're going to start with that story. Okay. Now, let's see here. So, it's 1994 too. Oh, so it's there is a moral to this story. Number one, the moral here is that this was a different time period. This is Generation X. This is the 90s. And eccentricity and individuality was like way out there. Number one, I was in my 20s. I was, let's see here, 1994. I think I was 23 years old. I was a 23-year-old from DC, DuPont Circle, walking through Haight Ashbury at the very core and center of Generation X at the tail end of 1994. So you have to keep all of this in mind, because all of my video logs are made for kids, and they're family friendly, and they're meant to be as G-rated, PG-13 as plausible. So I'm going to do my best with this story. But understand that I am not perfect. I have made mistakes in my life. I have done things that you're in your early 20s. It's Generation X. You're a rocker, and you're out in Haight Ashbury. So we're going to preface the story with that. Okay. So I finally get to Haight Ashbury. Now, let me tell you a little bit about the history of Haight Ashbury in San Francisco, California. In San Francisco, California. Well, number one, where do we start? Carlos Santana. First transported there, I believe, in 1966, 1967, and he still lives there, to my understanding. Carlos still lives in the Haight Ashbury, San Francisco neighborhood, I believe, from where he moved into since 1967. Okay, so the one and the only Carlos Santana of the one and the only Santana, right in the very heart of Haight Ashbury, San Francisco, California. So that's powerful because, you know, he and I may not agree on everything, clearly, but there is a great, and the man is greatness. You know, there's this, he's, you know, he is who he is, you know, and he's quite a man of magic. There's no question about that, and genius. And so those are the many elements about him that I do respect. And he does strike me as a genuinely loving and peaceful, cosmic and transcendental person. Okay. Now, also in Haight Ashbury, that's where Janis Joplin was conceived. Janis Joplin was the singer for a group called the Big Brother Holding Company. And we'll get to that in a bit more. Also Haight Ashbury, to my understanding, is where Grace Slick and the Jefferson Airplane lived and got started, along with the Grateful Dead. So there's a lot of history inside of Haight Ashbury in terms of modern popular history and culture. I mean, you know, when Clive Davis, the one and the only Clive Davis, took Carlos Santana under his wing and mentored him, Carlos was a kid. He was 18 to 19 years old and had just moved, I believe, into the Haight Ashbury area, if I'm right. I could be wrong. Grace Slick and the Jefferson Airplane got started there. The Grateful Dead got started there. And Big Brother Holding Company got started there and had a singer by the name of Janis Joplin. Now, this is where it gets interesting. Even you know, this is, now that's the bright side. So here comes the dark side of Haight Ashbury. So when Janis Joplin was the singer of this local Haight Ashbury band called the Big Brother Holding Company, right down the hallway in the same, I think, apartment building or Victorian row house, because inside of Haight Ashbury, there are a whole bunch of Victorian row houses all next to each other. And right down the hallway from Janis Joplin, she used to practice from inside her apartment, and her neighbors could hear her singing. And right down the hallway from Janis Joplin, she had a neighbor that she didn't know anything of named Susan Atkins. The same Susan Atkins who would become a member of the Manson tribe, as in Charles Manson. The same Susan Atkins who was one of the perpetrators that night of the 8th of August, 1969, inside of the Sharon Tate house, involving Sharon Tate and her friends. Now, at that time, Susan Atkins not only lived down the hall from Janis Joplin, but she was the member of a church inside of Haight Ashbury. Right. And that is it's a very unpopular church because of its beliefs. So Yeah, so the founder of that church is from Haight Ashbury, and he founded and started that church in Haight Ashbury. Now, moving along. So one day, Susan Atkins goes to a park in Haight Ashbury at an outdoor free show in Haight Ashbury, San Francisco, California, featuring this chick named Janis Joplin singing lead vocals. When Susan Atkins went to that show at that outdoor park in Haight Ashbury to see Big Brother Holding Company, there was a 5 to 5'1" would be considered petite, classically petite for a woman, but for a man, a diminutive, small man who was about 5 to 5'1". That was his height. And they just started looking at each other, and they clicked and connected. And that guy said to her that his name was Charles Manson. He was standing there at this outdoor free show at this park in Haight Ashbury, watching there at this outdoor free show at this park in Haight Ashbury, watching Janis Joplin sing. And Janis Joplin and the Big Brother Holding Company, I don't even think they were signed yet and had put out their legendary debut album yet. I think this was all before they even got their record deal. So I learned all of that just, earlier this year through multiple YouTubers. If it pops up on my channel and if it's of interest and it strikes curiosity or it's tied to anything, you know me, I have to be on top of it. So I am. Period. So there's that. So that's the history of Haight Ashbury. It is also, unfortunately, the birthplace of the Manson family. So Santana, the Grateful Dead, the Jefferson Airplane, Big Brother Holding Company, Janis Joplin, and the Manson family were all born out of the Haight Ashbury neighborhood, all in that short amount of time. I'd say from 1966 to 1967, 68. Now, so it's 1994. It's Generation X. Biggie Smalls put out his debut album, Ready to Die. It's the year that Courtney Love and Hole put out their album, Live Through This. It's the year that Kurt Cobain was found deceased in April of 1994. But it's also the year in which Marilyn Manson released the album titled Portrait of an American Family. Now, what's interesting and coincidental is that that entire album was recorded and mixed and produced inside of the Sharon Tate house of the address of 10050 Cielo Drive, Bel Air, California. Because at that time, Trent Reznor of Nine Inch Nails purchased the house himself and became the sole owner of the house. And he built a recording studio inside where all took place that night, the 8th of August, 1969. So we had Marilyn Manson do the entire Portrait of an American Family album in that house. Okay. So 1994 was what I'm getting around at, kind of a dark year. There was a lot of dark energy and darkness everywhere. And for anyone that's my age and that was a 20-something person during Generation X, you know what I'm talking about and speaking of. So let's not, let's keep it real. So there were, I know it's nowhere near as bad as now, but the difference was you didn't have social media platforms, you didn't have the World Wide Web, you didn't have the internet, you didn't have personal computers, you didn't have tablets, you didn't have cell phones. So all of the people that were very troubled and challenged spiritually, soulfully, mentally, physically were out on the streets. That's the difference between then and now, because they couldn't spend time on the internet. They couldn't traverse through social media. They couldn't operate through their devices. So if you were, if you were alternative, if you were eccentric, if you were out there, if you suffered from this depression, if you were, had a problem with, addiction and all the things that children of this country and the world are now so familiar with. Back then, there was no hiding it because you didn't have the internet. You didn't have cell phones. You didn't have anything. You either stayed in where you were or you went outside. So try to imagine all of them out music venues. I'm not saying it was a bad thing. I'm just telling you how it was back then. So if you went out into life and culture and society, there was no getting around it. No getting around it. It was impossible. Okay. And that's the beauty of the internet. And that's the beauty of the World Wide Web and social media and devices. You don't have to put yourself out there anymore. And yet you can still be interactive and engage. It's incredible. I love it. But I was 22, 23. It's 1994. It's late October. Halloween is coming. I'm in San Francisco. So let's take it there. All right. So I get to Haight Ashbury. I get to Haight. And I'm walking through. I've got my backpack on. And let me tell you, it was, back then it wasn't considered. I look back now and I'm thinking like this was considered normal, But nowadays it would be like unbelievable for people. They wouldn't believe the things I'm about to share. I walk into Haight Ashbury late 1994 and I see heroin drug junkies walking up and down the sidewalk with horrible track marks all over their arms, dressed up like vampires, as if though they were the fictional version of Count Dracula, with vampire white makeup, cloaks, and completely poisoned, drugged out of their minds. That was one of the first things I took notice of when I walked through there. Okay. And keep in mind, this is for kids because it's important for kids to know. There is nothing to gain through tobacco, through alcohol, through pharmaceuticals, i.e. pills, or narcotics drugs. It's crazy, it's dumb, it's stupid, it's destructive, it's sabotaging, and it can take your life. It's not worth it. Okay. And it causes all of this craziness that shouldn't even exist. And in some cases, that doesn't even exist, but then produces that craziness and turns it into a reality. And then you find yourself having to get out of that hole. So why even go in? All right. So I see them walking up and down the sidewalks in Haight. And I'm like, okay. I say to myself, boy, this is going to be interesting. And remember, I'm a 52-year-old man now and a father. I was a 22 to 23-year-old kid. I was a kid. I weighed 126 pounds. My complexion at that time was alabaster. My lips were blood candy apple red. My eyes were borderline amber orange and brown. My hair was poofed up in waves and locks. Yes. This is 30 years ago, man. Okay. So I see that. I'm like, okay, not interested. Never. Never in these veins, not in this body. And I never have, and I never will. And I'm not interested. So I keep walking. And I see a place called the Coffee Zone. You can't make this up, believe me. You cannot. So I go across the street and I walk inside the Coffee Zone. And I go up to the bathroom to use it before I get something to drink. And I've got my velour materialed retro vampire candy apple bloodwort shirt on with huge wingtip collar with a collar with huge wingtips. I'm wearing an oval silver ring that they like to refer to as a poison ring. I have around my neck a medallion of a 5-pointed star, upright, not downward, but upward. Upright versus inverted. What some would refer to as a pinnacle. I was completely, totally glam rocked out. So that was also a time period when I was wearing cosmic colors. Right. And, would put eyeliner, black eyeliner. So, and I had my backpack on. Oh, hold on here, please. Okay, hold on here. So I had my backpack on, right? And I also had my, I believe I had my vintage corduroys. They were like a magnesium copper blue. I had my black leather boots with the silver circles on the side. And I had like a magnesium copper blue belt, I believe, with a star belt buckle on it. Oh, yeah. You should have seen me. I know. So I had the velour red shirt, the vampiric velour materialed shirt with the huge wingtip collar. I had a silver poison ring. My hair was puffed up in locks and waves. I had a like I don't know, it was like just a solid blue pants on, my black boots. So hold on here. Let me address this really quick so I can continue this video log. Okay, so I'm in the Coffee Zone. I go to the bathroom. I just want to use it. And I see a circle of them dressed like him. This is Vladimir Dragul. This is an actual portrait of the actual Count Dracula from the 15th century and the 1400s. But Actually, I'm wrong. Not like him, but like the imaginary fictional version of him created by the author Bram Stoker, right? The one that like turns into a bat and has the cloak on and all of that. Anyhow, I opened the bathroom door and it's a circle of them, like a coven. And they're all passing around a needle right over the toilet bowl and toilet inside the bathroom. I said, whoa, okay. Let me tell you how crazy some of these people were. Back then, I mean, you have to understand that the damage that exists now is damage that has existed for decades and generations, for centuries, and even a millennia plus of specifics and of specific groups. And, you know, I have one of my quotes: never the racist, never the hater, but always the realist and purest and truest of them all. So, back then in that neighborhood, you had these zombie drug addict, heroin abusers who would dress up like vampires, and they would specifically seek out dumpsters of glass manufacturing companies because they knew that the companies would dispose of these items and materials, and they would jump in and then jump out. So that's how much pain lived even back then in terms of harm of self. So this, I'm giving you the type of aura and environment and energy that was there. Okay. So then I'm in the coffee zone. I'm like, okay, well, I wait to go to the bathroom. And there's this guy there. And I went ahead and did something that I would never want anyone to do, especially like my daughter or ever, especially nowadays. But I was being adventurous. I was being wild and unabandoned and reckless and dumb and stupid. And I spoke to this guy, and I followed him to the nearby park around the corner. I mean, I believe that park is where a lot of historic, legendary happenings have happened inside of Haight Ashbury. And I have my Walkman. I have a Walkman clipped to my belt with headphones. And in it, I have the Led Zeppelin documentary movie live concert soundtrack on cassette tape of The Song Remains the Same, of two back-to-back sold-out performances by Led Zeppelin at Madison Square Garden in 1973. And to think that I'm that kid that was in this park in Haight Ashbury, San Francisco, and followed this guy to his van. And I got multiple invites directly by direct email, strict RSVP invites. She's even emailed me directly. Members of her team have emailed me by Scarlet Page, the historic rock photographer daughter of Jimmy Page of Led Zeppelin. So now let me go ahead and tell you what happened. So I, like an idiot and a lunatic, at 22 years of age, during Generation X, late October, I think November 1994, inside of Haight Ashbury with all of that history. Santana, the Grateful Dead, Janis Joplin, Big Brother Holding Company, the Manson family, aka Tribe, Susan Atkins, all of it. I follow him there, and I purchased 10 hits of White Lightning LSD. And just crazy. But I did. And I remember he opens up the back of his van. He goes, "Hey, man, you sure, man? You look pretty young, man. Say, you sure you want to do all that? You sure you can handle that type of trip, man? Do you understand what this is? This is the most potent form of LSD ever created and distributed throughout Haight Ashbury's history, man. Oh, no, man. Oh, no. You're not even from here, too. That doesn't sound like a good deal to me, man." I said, "Oh, man, I've got this, man." "Really? You've got it?" "Yeah, I got it." "You sure about that?" I said, "I'm positive." Hold on here. I'm doing a vlog right now. I can't talk on the phone. Okay, huh? I said that's fine. Okay. I understand. I understand. I'll talk to you soon. Okay. All right. Bye-bye. So anyhow, he said, "All right, man, here you go. It's your call, dude." I said, "It sure is." So like the daredevilish, bold, daring, but crazy 22, 23-year-old Roman emperor of nuked all clearism that I didn't know I was then and would become and am now eternally. I took the whole thing, all 8 to 10 in one shot. He looked at me and said, "Man, I wish you nothing but the best, man." It's not funny. I laugh at it now because I would never do anything like that now. It's so crazy. But I did. So, but there's a lesson to be learned here, and you're about to find out. He goes, "All right, man, take care." I said, "I got this, man." He said, "I hope you do." So I walked out of the park. I put the headphones on, and I cranked my tape, Led Zeppelin. The song remains the same. And lo and behold, the song, I remember the song that was on. It was No Quarter live. The very creepy, majestic, most magnificent, magical No Quarter. And that heavy cathedral organ played by John Paul Jones. So I put the headphones on and I'm listening to it. And I'm walking. So I get back on the main street. I forget if it's Haight Ashbury. I didn't pay attention to signs and street signs. And I'm walking. All of a sudden I said, "Okay, all right, this is cool. I'm okay. I'm all right." And I see a bar called Boomerang. And by the way, I wouldn't be sharing this if my daughter weren't now heading into her upper late teens. So I'm still extremely mindful of all that's being said and how it's said. So I see Boomerang, a crazy biker bar. Can you imagine? I decide to step in a crazy, psychotic, whack job bar like this place. Because look, I don't care who you are, what you are, you know that you're crazy. All right. So I'll look up at the sign and it said something to the extent of those who come in, go out. Boomerang. Here we go. Okay. All right. So the place is called Boomerang, right? Okay. So I walk into the Boomerang bar, and let me wait here till someone here opens the door and closes it. Anyway, so I walk into this bar, and it's all kind of shady characters, shady. And I get to the bar, and behind the bartenderess, she has tattoos of black widows all over her face and on both of her arms. All right. And I get up to the bar to order a drink. And I think I had my wallet inside of my backpack because I had my backpack strapped to my shoulder, to my back, so that it was inside. And if someone wanted to get something, they'd have to actually go through me. So even at that age, there was a certain fearlessness about me and toughness even then, even though I did something as dumb, stupid, reckless, endangering, and psychotic as taking those 8 to 10 tabs of White Lightning LSD that day. Crazy, especially at that age, weighing 126 pounds, and not even being from there, knowing no one in that neighborhood with the history of that neighborhood. But I did it. So there I was, being my imperial, majestic, conquering emperor, settler, etc., pioneer, adventurous, but yet crazy, dumb 22-year-old self to 23. So back to Boomerang Bar. I'm at the counter. The bartender says tattoos and black widows all over her face on both of her arms. I ordered a drink. So I went into my backpack to get my wallet. But and that's when it struck like a lightning bolt of thunder by our very own god of thunder, Zeus, the father of Europa and her brother Hercules. So the acid trip took over right there. I got struck by the lightning bolt right there at the bar in this biker bar called Boomerang inside of Haight Ashbury, San Francisco, California. So I go down, I reach down, I take my backpack, I put it next to me, and I go down to reach it. And it's like never ending. It's like I'm reaching. It's like I'm moving my arm and hand in a never-ending well of blackness that's bottomless, like the abyss, and I can't seem to get to the end of it. Till I finally feel something, and it's my wallet. I pull it out. I pay. And there's this crazy sounding band on the stage at the far end of the bar. And their music sounded like a combination and mesh of this and that. It was just wild. Hold on here. So all of a sudden, standing next to me at that bar counter is this guy wearing a jester's hat out of a jester's court with bells on it. And he has black eyeliner circled around his eyes. And his entire teeth, both the top and bottom rows of his teeth, are plated in silver. And he's standing next to me and he goes, "Hey, man. Hey, what's going on, man? Who are you, man? How are you, man? Hey. He just pops up next to me. I'm like, "Hey, what's up? I'm George." I went by George back then. I said, "George, I'm from DC, blah, 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 blah." He goes, "Yeah, man. Yeah. So what do you think of our sound check, man?" And he kept, this is how he was acting. Yeah. So what do you think of our sound check, man? What do you think of our sound check, man? And he kept talking really fast, really fast. So he clearly was drugged out of his mind. I said, it sounds interesting to me. What are you guys called? Toad Vine. Yeah, man. Yeah. Yeah. We're out of Los Angeles, man, but we decided to relocate here, man. Yeah, man. Yeah. So, of course, I didn't say to him, why won't you stop moving your neck and talking like that? Yeah, we're Toad Vine, man. Toad Vine. We're a combination of big band and speed metal, man. I was like, all right, dude, cool. He said, you be safe out here, okay? Then to my left is a guy sitting wearing a shirt similar to my shirt, the velour red shirt with the huge vampiric wingtip collar, 70s shirt. And he looks at me and smiles and does a toast to me, even though I'm now tripping out of my mind. And he's holding up a glass of red wine. And he says to me, hey, would you like to come with us? We're going to the park tonight. We're going to be at the park all night tonight. Let's see here. Okay. He goes, yeah, man, we're all going to the park tonight. It's going to be a wild one tonight. It says that the moon's going to be full. I said, no, that's okay. I'll pass. So then I go to the bathroom. Oh my God. So understand, like, the lightning bolt struck. I head into the bathroom to urinate, to pee, which we all do. And all of a sudden, I see newspaper articles that were cut out and clipped, and they cover the entire ceiling from wall to wall of the entire bathroom. And then I started looking at the articles that were on the walls and ceiling of this bathroom. I'm pretty sure I remember this 100% accurately. But they were all newspaper articles of the most sick, ill-minded, troubled, lost souls to have committed serial crime ever. So in this bathroom, you had articles about Gacy. You had articles about Bundy. You had articles, if it involved any type of character like that, of that psychotica and psychosis, and of those types of activities, the entire bathroom was plastered from wall to wall with articles of these people. Imagine being a 22, 23-year-old kid. You weigh 126 pounds. You just took 10 hits of white lightning, LSD in one shot. You're at a biker bar. You're in the bathroom. And this is what you see on the ceiling and on all of the walls surrounding you while you're urinating. Peeing. Yes. So I stepped out of the bathroom. None of this is funny. It's not admirable. It's not funny. It's not cool. But you know what? It's what happened. Okay. So I stepped out. And they're all like laughing at me. Several of them. Like, hey, man, take care, man. Good luck out there, man. Have a good night, man. Because they knew. Here's an out-of-towner kid completely tripping. Like, just, you know, he's on his own out here in Haight Ashbury, of all places. So I step out. I look up at the sign, and I see the title of the bar, and an actual boomerang. In they come, out they go. In they come, out they go. So then I ventured over to one of the parks. Then I turned around and I went back down through Haight Ashbury. So I'm going through. Once you're there, there's no getting out of it. You have to understand that. So that's, it is what it is. Well, once the trip starts, that's it. That's why you had to make sure beforehand, because afterwards, that's it. That's it. You're inside the trip. That's it. It doesn't end until it ends. So I'm walking down the sidewalk and I'm like, whoa, this is getting serious. And I put on my headphones. I know. When I think back in all of my ignorance and naivety and stupidity and psychotica back then, I really was still very tough. Because if you really listen to what happened here for someone of my age and size and weight on my own, it's hardcore. I know. So, hardcore, stupid, and crazy, but still hardcore. So then I'm walking down. I put my headphones back on. And I continue to listen to Led Zeppelin. Live at Madison Square Garden. The song remains the same soundtrack to the 2 cassette tapes. And that's when it got really bad. I tried to stop myself from walking down this street because I was trying to light a cigarette, which only has 4,000 chemicals in every cigarette stick, is cancerous as hell, burns fire. I know. Just the stupidity, the ignorance, the insanity of it all. But I'm going to tell it as it was. So I tried to light it, and I couldn't stop my body to light it. I had officially become like a zombie. My brain couldn't tell my body, stop, stand, pause. It was scary. And I'm inside of Haight Ashbury, and it's getting dark. And I'm listening to Led Zeppelin. And I'm on 10 hits of White Lightning LSD. Oh, yeah. And then I'm like, whoa. And that's when I had to dig deep. I said to myself, okay, you are still you. Dig deep now. You cannot allow these 10 hits of White Lightning LSD. You cannot allow the energy of this neighborhood in all of its darkness, surrounded by all of these zombies and wannabe vampires and drug addicts and junkies and so-called this and that. You cannot allow this to overpower you or you are done. So I stopped. I stopped myself somehow. I told my brain, okay, grab that rail right now. So I grabbed the rail and I held onto it. I said, now sit down. So I sat down and I waited. And I waited there. And then I slowly got back up again and kept on walking. I was in control of my acuities all over again. I was starting to overpower the 10 hits of White Lightning LSD, even at that age. So I'm walking through. Now it's dark. It's nightfall. I remember this cat crossed my path. And when you're under that influence and in that trip, for those out there who know of my age, you can't do that nowadays. No one should ever do this. This stuff never should have been created. I'm going to put it out there. All right. All of the craziness of this society and culture never should have been put out there. All its pills, all its drugs, its guns, all of it. Okay. Food and beverage items filled with poison. And the rest goes on and on. But anyway, I'm still tripping, so I'm walking down the sidewalk, and this cat, this beautiful black cat, is looking at me. And the cat stops, which is still a very normal thing for a cat to do. If it's a street cat or even a domesticated house cat that's just out and about, they'll stop and bolt. Like a cat was human in soul, in body movement. Maybe it was the white lightning. But man, that was the most that cat, man, that was just creepy, man. So the cat walks by me. So then I go further down the street. And then I see a car that looks like it's filled with gangsters. Yes. I know. I told you, this is as dumb, as stupid, as reckless, as endangering, as foolish and psychotic as it gets. I see a car. And I got a really bad sense about them. It looked like one of those Impalas. And it looked like they were wearing blue. Everyone was in blue, right? And even then, my survival instincts overpowered the 10 hits of white lightning. I was like, uh-oh. They're going to pick up that I'm undergoing this trip through Haight Ashbury and that I'm not from here. So they drove past me, and then they started to turn around to do a U-turn. So I walked like everything was normal, and as soon as I could, I saw a right, and I bolted. I'm running, bolting. I took a right somewhere, and I just kept running and running and running and running. And I went behind these bushes. None of this is funny, but this is what happened. And I went behind the bushes. I did. And I waited. And I actually saw the car go by slowly. It wasn't driving. You know how a car like goes like 30, 35 mph or like even 15? No. This car was going 5 to 10. It was just creeping and crawling through. And I waited and I waited. And then they turned around and they left. And I waited. And then I slowly came out of the bush. I walked back down the hill, looked, didn't see anyone, and took a right and got right back on the same street. So I know. But, it was Generation X. It was 1994. Marilyn Manson came out. Hole came out. Kurt Cobain died. Marilyn Manson, Biggie Smalls came out. There was a lot going on, I was 22 going on 23. Okay? And an idiot. All right. Plain and simple. So I now get through that. I finally am out of Haight Ashbury. I'm on Market Street now in downtown central San Francisco. I did it. I made it out. I walk and walk and walk through Market Street, and I hear from a subway station down below, under street level, a guy playing every breath you take, every smile you fake, oh, I'll be watching you, right? Slightly pitchy there. Who cares? Whatever. I'm not trying right now for real. So the Police, he was playing Every Breath You Take by the Police on acoustic guitar. And, you know, the trip is, it's wanting. It's wanting and wanting, but it's still there. So I walk up to the metro station and I look down and I see this guy sitting by himself playing this guitar right at the steps of the metro station on Market Street with the gate closed because it doesn't open until 5 or 6 in the morning. And he's playing. I said, hey, right. After going through all of that, God, I mean, I make it sound like it was 10 minutes and a couple of blocks to get out of Haight Ashbury. I don't really know how long it was or how many blocks it was, but it felt like it took me 6 to 8 hours to get from the Boomerang Bar out of Haight Ashbury, out of a neighborhood. And my understanding is that the neighborhood is small. So that's the potency and craziness of all this stuff they've created. That it has you thinking that you're taking hours to get out of a place that's like something out of Alice in Wonderland. That's in fact, in reality, hours to get out of a place that's like something out of Alice in Wonderland. That's in fact, in reality, sober and dry, a small neighborhood district. There you go. So anyway, I said something to him. I said, hey, what's up, man? He goes, hey, man, who are you? You know, a lot of times when people first see my face and see me for the first time, it's always that type of response. There's like, whoa, from which time period? What century? When? What time machine? It's true. I'm like, hey, man, my name's Jorge Estrada, man. I'm from DC, man. I took freaking 10 tabs of white lightning. I made it out of Haight. Oh, you made it out? Really? Wow. You're from DC and you came out here and you went through Haight Ashbury alone and you dropped 10 doses of white lightning, man, and you made it back out, man? I said, yeah, man. He says, you know what, man? Here, have a beer on me. He unzips his bag next to him. I know. I don't do any of this stuff anymore. This is 30 years ago. 30 years ago. He had an entire case of canned beer in the bag that he said he had just picked up from a nearby store before he started sitting down and playing guitar. He says, man, he goes, you deserve one on me, brother. Here, man. And he puts a cold can in my hand. He says, you went through Haight and dropped 10 doses and you're not even from here on your own. This one's on me, man. Why don't you kick it with me, man? I was like, sure. He says, so that way, you know, you can, you know, why don't you just trip here with me? Stay safe. I'm going to be playing songs all night. It's what I do, man. I live out here on the streets, man. I'm a busker. I'm a traveling musician that plays on the streets and lives out in the streets. Yeah, I know. Welcome to November 1994, Generation X, downtown Market Street, central San Francisco, California, by Haight Ashbury. It's just the way it was, okay? So, you know, people like him, they didn't have the internet. They didn't have social media. None of this existed back then. Okay. So he treated me to drinks. He treated me to, poison and craziness, cigarettes and beer, and played songs all night till the sun rose. Then, once the sun rose and the metro station opened up, I called my girlfriend Stephanie 4 weeks after I left. I know. But we all, we make mistakes and you live and you learn, okay? So that was 30 years ago. So I get on the phone, I call her. I said, Steph. She goes, "Oh my God, it's you." I said, "Yes." She said, "Where the hell have you been? I filed a missing police report on you. I contacted your mother. I contacted everybody. I contacted the DC Police Department." I said, "I'm sorry. I just got a call and I took it and I went with it and I was wrong and I apologize." "Where are you?" "You're not going to believe this." She said, "Where are you?" I said, "I'm in San Francisco, California at a metro station down the street from Haight Ashbury because I had to try it out." And this street buster kept me company till the sun rose. So I'm asking if you can cover my way back. I'll catch a plane back today. "I will, you crazy, crazy son of a gun, you." I said, "I'm sorry." So she said, "I will see you at the airport. And don't take any more adventures from the plane ticket I'm going to get you to here." So I caught the plane and went back to the airport, and I get out and I'm walking. It was National Airport. And she goes, hey, I'm here." And she's right behind me. Because, "What is wrong with you? Did you not see me wave at you? I spoke to you. You walked by me like you didn't even recognize me." I think I was just that exhausted. She goes, "Come home with me." So that was that. Now let me say something here. Now that I wrap this up, when I went to when I went through that trip of mine through Haight Ashbury, at let's see here. Hold on here. I was 21 years old. I just thought about it. Wait, hold on. It's 2023 versus 1994, 29. So I was 23. I was 23 years old. So to end this video log, when I took that trip through Haight Ashbury, San Francisco, California, during my Roman, Latin, Italian holiday of Halloween of late October 1994 AD, and I took that trip through Haight Ashbury in my Gregorian calendar month of November of our year of 1994 AD, and I weighed 126 pounds and dropped the 10 tabs of White Lightning LSD and went through that very challenging, dark trip through a very dark but magical, historic place. Did I sense that I would be surrounded by 800 living, historic, legendary members of the very top of pop history and culture's 100th anniversary of existence since the red ribbon was cut in Bel Air, California, at Benedict Canyon in 1923 versus now 2023? I didn't, but I think that I always knew there was something else about me that just towered, stood over, and was different from anyone on the earth. I always felt it. Even that far back when I was in my naivety, ignorance, foolishness, negligence, psychotica, stupidity, and idiocy. even then, okay, did I know that I would single-handedly self-amass the real true come to life Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, Beatles album cover, roster and assembly, live performance team, studio projects production album debuts team, virtual remote performance team of the very top legends and masters and greats of pop recording history of the last 50 to 100 years, who did all of A to Z musically and historically with 66 plus living and dead icons, legends, superstars, executives, and moguls. Please keep that light on. I didn't realize what a difference it makes. Thank you. Did I know? Yeah. I mean, they did all of A to Z musically and historically with 66 plus living and dead icons, legends, and superstars. And with 30 plus marquee monarchs of every genre of the mainstream and underground of the entire 100 plus history of pop recording and of pop history and culture. And the 96 plus they did all with have sold at least a combined minimum of 20 billion plus records worldwide since Chuck Berry, our founding father of rock and roll, which sprung off the diving board of our Roman Latin Italian platform of music and instrumentation and of the arts and sciences born of Roma. Conceived by the first Roman Latin kingdom of 8 BC through the Confederacy and the League of Latium. Now, I believe in its 2030th anniversary. And here I am. Did I know that I would be contacted by Jimi Hendrix's brother, Jimmy Page's daughter, that I would have a guitar pick put in my hand by Jim Morrison's lead rhythm guitarist, Robbie Krieger of The Doors, by the drummer of Prince, by the glove, clothing, and costume maker of Michael Jackson, by the lead guitarist of Bob Marley and the Wailers, by the producer of the Notorious B.I.G., by the official webmaster of the Catman of Kiss, Peter Criss, the official lifetime videographer of Ace Frehley, the Spaceman of Kiss, the former music director of the King of Rock and Roll, Elvis Presley. And it goes on and on and on. I'm that same kid that walked through Haight Ashbury that November of 1994 through that entire trip. And here I am sitting in front of you right now. Okay. So, did I know then that I would have a customized crystal glass right-handed glove made for this hand right here by one of the former costume, clothing, tuxedo jacket, socks, pants, and glove makers for the king of pop, Michael Jackson himself? And for the 1984 Michael Jackson Thriller Jackson's Victory Tour? No. Who did alterations for Billy Preston? Who played for Little Richard, Ray Charles, the Beatles, the Rolling Stones? Who had his song turned into the permanent mid-break instrumental song piece for ABC American Bandstand by Dick Clark? Who portrayed Sgt. Pepper's in the 1978 movie Sgt. Pepper's Lonely Hearts Club Band, in which the soundtrack was produced by the Bee Gees, featured Peter Frampton, featured Alice Cooper. And it just goes on and on and on. I'm that same kid. That's right. That's right. So now I do have 2 separate video logs that are a lot shorter. I didn't expect this one to be that long. I thought maybe 20, 30 minutes, but not an hour plus. When I saw the Spaceman of Kiss, Ace Frehley, and his opening act Pentagram at the original Black Cat, I believe that was the 8th of July, 1994, Friday. And then the following Saturday, when I went to the Pink Floyd concert at RFK Stadium for their Division Bell tour. I was at that concert. I went by myself, long story short, and I was surrounded by 30,000 plus bikers from 30,000 plus biker gangs from every national chapter throughout the entire country you could think of, at a stadium that was filled with over 55,000 plus people, all on LSD, acid, and tripping. I know it's psychotic and dumb and stupid and idiotic and crazy. But clearly, 1994 was a year of adventure for me that I would never recommend to anyone, be it an adult, teenager, or adolescent. Because these are different times too. These are different times for 10 million reasons, but that's one of them. These are different times. You just can't do stuff like that and walk out there and be like, oh, I'm being adventurous. Oh, I'm tripping. Oh, yeah, I'm going to make it out of this. You can't do that anymore. That's over with. Okay. So don't do it. All right. But yeah, it just blows me away where I'm at now. You know, I mean, all right. Jorge Estrada, DC, Dicer Mutatio Formulae. The Roman Emperor of nuked all clearism. And I love my daughter, the Empress.